Reba and I started talking about doing this, she said, have you thought of using Ross next door? And I said, Ross? And she said, Ross, Spunglass Theatre. I said, oh my word, yes, perfect. It's a perfect time to bring you in.
What do you mean it's next door?
Because, so this is Ross Drury, everybody.
Well, Spunglass Theatre essentially have the lease for the State Hall, so we are a theatre company that run the facility.
Okay.
Come on then, tell us all about it. Now, Kath used to say back in the day, she'd say, if I was a granny who knew nothing about it, what is Spunglass Theatre?
That is a question with an answer that changes quite a lot, really. I think there are a lot of things. I mean, historically, Spunglass Theatre was a theatre company that started out in Brighton and Edinburgh fringe festivals when we were young, putting on plays about our problems and our hopes, I suppose. Over time, particularly around the pandemic, we had a pivot towards creating activity for children in early years. This was partly because of where we were in our lives, but also that kind of inciting incident that the pandemic created for a lot of organisations. There was a feeling that we can make a difference, and where that's where we needed to position ourselves. So that began with a baby and parent group first, that got Arts Council funding, where we brought in arts facilitators and actors and artists to run sessions with parents and babies in their first year. So it's kind of a little bit drama therapy, a little bit arts practice, and essentially a parent baby group. Nice. That led us, whilst we're in Hastings, to setting up a kind of early years art centre. There's a really small gallery space, which is now a nail bar, that we built a kind of centre for us to do our work in. Whilst we were going on this journey, we realised that space was really important to do our work well. A lot of buildings are made for grown-ups, for example. So, so we got a bit of money and we turned that into an art space. Whilst we were doing that, we were working with lots of different sort of hirers and community groups, putting on our own plays, things like that. And then the State Hall went up asking for expressions of interest. And I essentially wrote a proposal that was for what I call the coolest village hall of all time. So the general premise of that was that we would basically return the State Hall back to what it was originally built for, which was a centre for the community, putting on events that would be accessible, affordable, full of people. Very simple concept, really. We were very lucky that they said yes, and we moved in, and it quickly did quite well, if I'm honest. I've made a lot of mistakes in my career, but the State Hall definitely isn't one of them. We did two very simple things. One was that we made it cheap to hire and easy to hire, which sounds kind of simplistic, and it is, but it had an immediate impact. So our general premise is that we do have to charge for hire, but we subsidise that with our funding, and our business model works in a way where we have to work harder in order to fill it, in order for it to keep running. So we do need to work at volume, and it is important that we have hires coming in, but that worked quite quickly, really, and has grown from that point. So to answer your question, what is Spunglass Theatre? We are one layer managers of a community centre trying to run a village hall, another layer putting on plays, creating art and culture and advancing the arts and culture, and then another layer working with children in early years. And we are, I think, continually responsive within that spectrum. Coming into the State Hall really changed who we were, because actually if we were just to continue only working with babies in early years, would be a really exclusive thing to do. We had to kind of broaden our horizon and create different relationships, different partnerships in order to make it work. And that changed our objectives with it. So, that's kind of where we've been and where we're going. I mean, it is about to change again, actually, in a sense, where we're starting to pivot our work towards new writing and creating theatre work that's about families, so not necessarily for children and their parents, but actually pieces of theatre that are reflecting on family life, what family means in our contemporary society, and politics that kind of impact all of that. So we are on the precipice of employing a playwright to work with us to create those plays, and the producer, so we can then go from the stable and start touring different spaces and theatres.
Wow.
Will you put them on here?
Yes, so the idea is that we will, we do programme work, theatre work in here, which if you're watching at home, please start booking. The thing that we struggle really with is selling theatre tickets, but we happen to put on really great programmes, so I would encourage people to look at what we're doing.
Sure.
So we receive shows from other companies as well as make our own. So yeah, we put up lighting in the hall, we put chairs out, turn it into a theatre for the evening. So yeah, the idea would be those plays will premiere here and then go on tour.
Nice. And what's do you have a background in theatre? Were you an actor, or are you an actor?
I'm a theatre director by trade. Terrible actor. Really important to understand that about me. One of the worst actors you've ever met. So quickly moved on from that, but loved acting, loved what acting could do, love actors. So I naturally navigated towards directing when I was about 19.
Are you a film or theatre guy?
Theatre. I've never done a film in my life. Love film, but never made one.
What's your favourite film?
My favourite film is 12 Monkeys.
Oh,
It's a good
such
one.
a good film.
Monkey.
Because, and actually this really links the
I don't know
kind
what
of,
that means.
this might sound a bit Spunglassy, but our logo is a kaleidoscope. I don't know if you've ever seen it.
Yeah.
The reason 12 Monkeys is my favourite film is because every time you watch it,
Oh,
it's
yeah.
a different movie.
It
It's
is
a different story.
movie.
It's a different perspective.
Every time.
I love that.
Yeah, it feels like it's got lots of things, lots of layers and lots of hidden depth. Yeah, it depends on the mood you're in when you watch it.
It's a time travel film. It's a real
So
apocalypse film.
good.
It's
It's got everything.
I have to watch that.
Oh,
yeah, it's different every time
so good.
you have a kid and then you watch it. It's all different.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm astonished.
So,
Because when I associate I'm just coming from my own ignorance here, and I can quite often I will be speaking for our viewership, and they'll go, "I didn't know either." So when I come to the Stage Hall, I've been to workshops here. I've been to more craft fairs than I could shake a stick at.
Yeah.
We used to use here back in the day when Juliet Russell was using here for vocal explosion. We used to come here and sing in the choir. But I kind of thought, how does the theatre aspect work? But you just illustrated it really well.
Yeah, well, a really important person in our journey is a director called Dan Hutton, who worked with us and runs Hastings Theatre Project.
I love Dan.
So when we had the lease, the idea, the proposal I wrote was essentially turning a theatre company with a sort of civic outlook.
Yeah.
How can we think about what we contribute to our surroundings rather than take from it?
You remind me actually very much of Dan Poppy's setup. So I'm sitting here thinking,
this
is like Hastings Theatre Project.
Well, he's really So when I got the lease, I then started just reading about it, and I came across his book, which is called Towards the Civic Theatre.
Yeah.
Found out he lived in Hastings. He had recently seen a play that I made and liked it, which is the easiest way into my friendship. And we went out for a drink, and I said to him, "Do you want to come and hang out in the hall with me?" And he did work for us for a year. So those links are definitely there.
Very generous people, aren't they?
Yes, definitely.
Yeah. And I think he'd say the same about you. It sounds like you're very, very simpatico in that way.
Yeah, do you know what I think? Yes, we are, and I consider Dan a friend as well as a sort of creative colleague. But I also think this is a lot of where theatre makers' minds are going, because tickets are hard to sell. The world around us is changing. I think we need to think about how we're contributing to audiences. The days are gone. It's sometimes very hard to justify why to do a play. Why do one? What impacts it having? The Arts Council is pushing for that, but also I'm noticing that a lot of theatre makers have started to think about that and think about how their skills as theatre directors and actors can actually bring people together and change something. A big inspiration for me, and there is a link with food banks and substance abuse as a director. I've never met him years ago, but someone called Alan Lane, who during the pandemic quite literally turned his theatre company into a food bank. And there's a wonderful book about it called A Club on the Edge of Town. I'm advertising Alan Lane, so if you ever see this, do you remember me from 10 years ago?
Yeah.
But it's a really inspiring book about, and it quite directly asks the question, if your audience are hungry, why make the opera? Like, you need to feed them first before you get to the opera. It's a really interesting argument for what culture is really for.
Yeah, sure.
So that was all in the DNA when I was writing that proposal to get the space and what I wanted to go and achieve.
But all through the pandemic, when people were saying, well, we all know who the people were when they were saying about the ballerinas, well, they can get to the back of the queue because we don't need ballerinas. We need different people. They were turning on Netflix, they were turning on the radio, they were turning to their music, they were turning to the theatre. Even though they couldn't go to the theatre, they were looking at theatre online. And people needed, so people were making these decisions that we don't need culture, would automatically resort to culture as their form of sustenance. So food is one sustenance, but theatre and all things cultural.
Food is culture.
Is absolutely, food is culture, but also culture is food. You know, not to eat exactly. Touche. But it's really important, you know.
That's a nice sort of setup actually for our next project, which we are collaborating with Sustenance on, which is called Pizza and Plays. So when you were talking about how the social element stood out to you, and you started that, I've had similar thoughts around, well, actually, this is why people want to go to the theatre, is that social element. Yeah. And I think maybe as theatre companies, as programmers, we need to work harder on what that social element is in order to sell more tickets and actually for the culture to be meaningful. So our next project, Pizza and Plays, is going to see us get, we're recruiting at the moment for 12 artists in Hastings. We have partnered with the museum. And those artists are going to connect with the sort of museum's archives and create 30, 40-minute theatre pieces about Hastings law. So that might be a famous figure like the Conquering King, or a particular story, or a kind of, something from Broomgrove, like a real Hastings idea. And then we have 3 evenings over the year where they'll put that play on, and Sustenance will provide the pizza. And then Hidden Beach, Remy, right?
Do know Remy,
He's going to do a sort of party rave at the end. So there'll be pizza, there'll be a play, and then there'll be a party. So it probably should be called Pizza Party. I came up with the title before I came up with the party. So that's our sort of. So we won't. My role in that is I will be coordinating it. I will be getting the artists together, making the partnerships and connecting people. We're not
producing them.
Yeah. Yes. I suppose a sort of producer would be the traditional title. So that goes up. That's our sort of big project for the year.
I love that. When does it start?
It's starting now. So we're working with the museum already, creating a kind of resource pack that is going to inspire these artists that we get together.
Love it.
I'm meeting with the artists next week, so we've just gone past our sort of expression of interest phase. We've got a real broad spectrum of performance sort of skills coming to us. So it's cabaret artists, digital artists, writers, producers, actors, kind of will create kind of micro companies out of those people. And then rehearsals will begin probably in May. First performance in September, second evening in November, final evening in December. And hopefully it will springboard more performances with pizza, my 2 favourite things, plays and pizza.
Absolutely.
I suppose on a sort of long-term strategy is that the artists that we meet and connect with may go on to make more plays this year, will become part of the kind of Spunglass family.
I love that. I love it. I'm all over that. The reason I'm all over it is because normally when you sort of, are we eating before we go? Are we going to be grumbling through the performance? I'm always very acutely aware of having grumbling, but the fact that you can have pizza
all under one roof.
That's just.
People like to eat these days.
They do.
It's like you can't go and see a movie without everyone eating in the cinema.
Exactly.
I mean, that didn't happen in the 70s, did it?
No.
But now it's like, that kind of
I like that though.
So will they be eating during the interval or throughout?
TBC, we'll probably try different things to find the right model.
Yeah.
Personally, I think it's get together and eat, play, party afterwards.
Yeah.
That's what I think. So I think it'll be 3 stages. I don't think it's like a dining event.
No.
Unless the companies that they get together want to make food part of the performance, which
Like
I have, I've done pieces that have included that before.
dinner theatre.
Yeah, that sort of thing. But my main focus really is just to kind of, I really like theatre, but I don't really like the theatre. I like to sort of break apart all those kind of posh things that stop people going and not making it accessible. So
Breaking down. Every week we have this, don't we? It's really weird, the bridging the gap between theatre being that place and yes, elitist. Every time.
This is like we could have a whole podcast about this, but obviously we live in England, and it's you go to the theatres in London, and the architecture themselves are built for the elite. So it has been this for hundreds and hundreds of years. So,
should we do one?
Do a
podcast? We'll get you,
yeah,
we'll get
sure.
Dan, we'll get Poppy, we'll get whoever, and talking about
Our Townhouse Theatre.
Our Townhouse Theatre, which certainly
get Neil from the stables.
We could get Neil.
Yeah, because he sells tickets very well.
He does. Yeah, he is. We were there a couple of weeks ago. I love this so much. I didn't realise quite how much I would, because I thought, this is someone I don't know. And I will own it, viewers, that sometimes I don't know who I'm going to be speaking to. And it's really nice to hear that you've got all this going on. Any more?
How do we get involved?
How do we get involved? Well, you can hire the hall anytime you like.
How does someone do that?
So you can go to our. There's a lady who's got a booking who's just trying to get in. Would you mind open the door? Sorry.
Because we're in real time.
Yeah. She'll think I'm not here, and there we go. So as I say, yes, you go to our website www.stagehall.com. You can email us at bookings@spunglasstheatre.com. I'm here every day. You can come and knock on the door and say hello. And we also have another space, which is the Fillets Bowls Club. So we help them with hires. It's not our space, it's obviously theirs, but we help facilitate that with bookings and hires. So there is also that available. And we are, if you're asking what else we're looking to do, we are looking to expand that network. So if you're a community hall or a church or anyone that might need help hiring space out, then we also do a bit of that. So.
You know who might need your help?
Oh yeah.
It's off the patch slightly.
Yeah.
But Icklesham Church. They're starting to broaden their horizons.
Oh, great. Okay.
Yeah, maybe get in touch. Because I've got a friend there who, what do we do with the church? We could do everything with the church. Space.
It helps us to have more spaces because we can give everyone what they want. So,
absolutely.
If somebody contacts us and we're not available in stage, we can go, we've got this space, we've got this space. And then everybody starts to win then because we can help these other spaces with revenue as well. That is certainly something we're interested in doing.
Oh, I love that.
We've also set up recently something called Spun Connect, which is a community box office.
Yeah.
So it's essentially, like Eventbrite. You can set up an event and stuff. So you can go on our website for £10, set up an event, set up 3 or 4 events on the website, sell tickets, and not pay astronomical charges for transactions.
Wow, you covered loads of bases. You're very business oriented, aren't you?
Oh, that's a strange word to use to someone who thinks they're a theatre director. I didn't.
But potentialising space is what you're talking about, which I think is absolutely fantastic.
Yeah.
So what we could do, because I see these buildings empty, and I'm like, that freaks me out. Why is it not booked out? But you're clearly working to.
Yeah, I remember when I first moved to Hastings, and I wanted to set up a drama club in the stage hall, and I remember going to the fire exit window where you can see it.
Yeah.
Sort of pushing the dust aside and
Yes.
looking in. And I couldn't get hold of anyone until And then when I did, it was really expensive and really difficult. And that, I felt wronged. That stayed with me. And I think my sort of broad objective is that nobody else goes through that. But it feels like all that you can hire is for you.
I love that.
And we've spent a lot of time talking about culture and plays, but for doing this job, I think culture is in the people.
Absolutely.
I see it every weekend, every day.
It's not a highfalutin thing, culture.
Yeah, and actually it's really satisfying for me to be able to achieve that and see that and not have to go and not have to put on a whole play.
Mm.
Because it's tiring and it takes a long time. So, I have seen that impact firsthand, and it does keep me going, motivated. But in terms of the business side of things, I think naturally as a theatre director, I can put together patterns and ideas and strategy. That's just like we can all do that.
Absolutely.
And I think if you can connect that with audience development and not fall into the trap of wanting to make loads and loads of money for yourself, then it becomes civically orientated and can do things. And I think that I can sell stuff, but I can't market things. But I do see what we're doing with a community interest, not necessarily a community interest that is a robust business, rather than kind of individual organisation.
And it's sustainable. It's sustainable as well, isn't it?
At the moment, yeah. We have to work hard on our funding. I have to work hard on making sure that the hall is always booked and seeking out opportunities and partnerships like I do with the sustenance and create those relationships and create bookings. I have to innovate. I have to think on the feet. And be responsive. It's not easy, but yes, it is sustainable. It is difficult in fundraising and things at the moment in the arts, and particularly in Hastings, but I personally see that as a
challenge.
Yeah, but also what's going on, I don't know if you know the statistic, but Hastings now has more Arts Council bids than anywhere other than London and the south of England, which tells you what kind of community we have. Now, you could interpret that like, oh, it's so competitive, oh no, I think that's amazing. No. And what an opportunity to create partnerships and meet people and build on projects. The idea that arts organisations are in competition, we're not Silicon Valley. No. Like this is I think it is a community. Like my experience of theatre makers is they generally want to make friends and do stuff. So, I think we're in a really exciting town at the moment. What we lack is the infrastructure to connect all of that together, because we don't have an MPO that's a theatre. We don't have a real arts centre. We're trying to do that in our own way, but we're a team of 3. So it is slightly separate. So I think that second podcast would be really interesting. And how we create that glue that puts that all together and creates a cultural community.
Definitely, I'm all over that. Because I think that would be let's synchronise it and get some more of you together. Because there's loads of you here, which is I think it's fantastic. Hastings has theatre. Yes. Ross, you've blown my mind.
Forgive me if I'm talking too fast.
You're fine. Don't worry. I hope the sound is good enough, because these have been very invasive fridges here, haven't they, today? But
invasive fridges.
Invasive fridges. That's a new album, isn't it?
Invasive.
We've got to do it. But bless your hearts, everybody. You've been amazing. So we've worked out where we are on socials. You've already said, haven't you?
Yes.
Thank you so much for being part of our Wednesday. Thank you, ladies, so much for being part of our Wednesday. Rima, Madeline, Ross, our town, absolutely indeed, has plenty. Woohoo!
Cheers.
That was mine.